Hello, everyone, and welcome to TB Wrestling. This is my wrestling channel. If you're looking for my other channel, you can find it in the link below. Today, we have our All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing post-show recap. Today, we have my lovely girlfriend, Sara Jackman, and two professional wrestlers, Ryan Matthews and rockstar Rip Parker. How are you all doing today?
Very good, considering it's 5 a.m. here.
Well, I'll be Ryan.
Well, first of all, what did you? Let's just go one by one. First, Sara, what did you think of the show?
Overall, I enjoyed it. There was some things I was really mad about, but other than that, the ending made it awesome for me. So,
Ryan, what did you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's the thing with AEW at the minute. I don't think there's ever been a pay-per-view where I've come away overall disappointed. It's just they always do something that, the overall show is always entertaining. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
And Rip?
Overall, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, especially compared to WWE pay-per-views as of late. A couple of little gripes. Again, nothing that ruins the show overall. It's just things that mean something to me. So no one else probably will give a damn.
Awesome. Well, we are going to get started, and we're going to go match by match. And first, we are going to talk about the buy-in. So on the buy-in, we had the best friends of Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta defeat the Private Party in 15 minutes to determine the number one contender for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And overall, I thought this was a lot of fun. And in my opinion, the result that needed to happen happened. And I'm glad that the best friends won.
No, I agree, to be fair. It was good to see Private Party back because I feel like they're, they've had a few really good performances, and I feel like they should be someone or a team that's regularly, featured. And I don't feel like, they get as much credit as they should and as featured as much as they should. So seeing them mentioned in, the tag title picture was definitely, a nice treat to start the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll admit I didn't see a lot of this match because I was getting ice cream, but I saw parts of it, and from what I saw, it looked like a really great match overall. And I
Did
really
it look better than the ice cream?
Nothing looks better than ice cream.
I second that opinion.
But I like the outcome because I really wanted Best Friends to win because of their streak that they've been on, and they've been really consistent lately.
Mm-hmm.
I personally enjoyed this match. Overall, it was my least favorite of all the matches, in terms of in-ring action. I really like Private Party, especially. I think they're coming on really well. But yeah, Best Friends had to win this because I kind of have a vague idea of what they might be doing story-wise. So it makes a lot of sense for Best Friends to come out on top.
Mm-hmm. Well, then next we had the Casino Ladder match for a future AEW World Championship match, which went 28 minutes and 30 seconds, and it featured Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Joey Janela, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian, and Luchasaurus, and a debuting Brian Cage with Taz. First of all, what do you all think about Brian Cage being the mystery person?
Yeah, I approve. Really good to see him finally debut. Obviously, he's had his issues with his injury and stuff. He was one of my favourites in Impact, so seeing his big moment to debut on in AEW, yeah, it was really good. Really made him look strong.
I really enjoyed the fact that, Ryan said, I was a huge fan of his work in Impact and other indie promotions he worked with. But the thing is, obviously, Impact isn't as big as it used to be. So I'm glad that Brian's now working for a company that's got so much more exposure because he is an actual freak of nature. The stuff he can do for a guy with his build, his size, just is incredible. So he's a good get.
Sarah, what did you think?
I will admit I didn't see a lot of this match because technical difficulties is a thing.
Yes.
So I kind of missed all that he did.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties on our end during this match, but overall, it seemed like the ladder match did its job. Everyone got their got their spots in. I know Sarah's happy because the chip was as big as it was. She really wanted it to be bigger than their heads.
I really just wanted it to be just huge.
I'm
That's all
interested
we
to see
asked
as well
for.
with sorry, go on, George. Okay.
I was going to say that's all we ask for, just giant poker chips. That's all we want in our wrestling. We don't want anything else but big poker chips.
I was going to say I'm interested to see. Obviously, Brian didn't debut alone as well. He came out with Taz. I know Taz had a big, few mentions in the past few episodes of Dynamite with trying to support Darby. So I'm interested to see where that develops, to be honest. And
Definitely.
I was a little bit disappointed because I was rooting for Darby to win, but
yeah,
I wanted Orange
himself up
Cassidy
quite
to
early.
win.
I
wanted
that's what
us to
Sarah
win.
wanted as well.
Orange
I
Cassidy
was
is.
torn.
It had to be Orange, in my opinion, Orange Cassidy or Luchasaurus, because in my opinion, they're two of the best, like, all-rounders AEW's got, because they both can do character work, and when they need to, they can go in the ring, especially Orange Cassidy. So, and just that spot with him, like, hanging onto Brian Cage as he climbs up and be like, no, I'm going to get this.
Yeah. My thing with Orange Cassidy, though, is I know his time is coming, but I almost feel like they need it to happen when there are actually fans there to get that moment. And which is why I feel like they even if that was the plan, they might have changed it just because they need that. When Orange Cassidy like gets a really big win, it's going to be freaking huge.
Yeah. Big pop.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this ladder match?
I very much enjoyed the fact that it felt every single person felt like a viable contender. I really like the fact that SCU, both members of SCU started the match and both were countering each other perfectly because they're a team. They know each other very well. Kip coming out using Penelope's distraction, using Jimmy Havoc. Just all the stuff that like is ongoing stories. The best friends coming out to save Orange Cassidy. Colt Cabana just being Colt Cabana. And Darby Allin being far too reckless for my liking. He literally scares me every time I see him in a ring.
Awesome.
I think as well there was a good moment where they show, how much of a threat Brian was, trying to stack all the props and everything on top of him to keep him out, and seeing how he managed to powerbomb Luchasaurus, that scared me. He made it look pretty easy, which was scary.
Overall, I really like the stipulations that AEW has done, especially their like casino style. I think those have been pretty fun.
I felt like as well it kind of filled in a void that Money in the Bank left as well, because with Money in the Bank you didn't really get those cool ladder sequences. You didn't really, it kind of just felt like it was almost like an apology for the Money in the Bank, which it was great for me because I was really hoping for like a traditional, everyone fighting for an opportunity, all the ladder spots, everything. So
I agree completely with Ryan. Funny enough, me and Ryan, Joe and Jay, we watched the Money in the Bank pay-per-view live. We had our own little predictions contest, and all four of us were not too pleased with the Money in the Bank match overall. So this felt like, yes, why couldn't you do this in the first place? WWE, they're doing it. Why can't you?
And it was nice that they were still able to do it live. Though I think the concept of doing it in the Titan Towers was like a cool idea. It felt super gimmicky and not in a good way.
It was cool in concept, not in execution.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Cool. So next match we had was MJF with Wardlow defeating Jungle Boy in 17 minutes and 20 seconds.
I can see he's like busting out to say it. Go on.
Yeah.
This is the match that first made me go, right, this is part of the reason I don't watch AEW as like religiously as I watch like New Japan and stuff. And I've mentioned to you guys already, the Canadian Destroyer that was not even sold. It was literally back onto feet, super kick, and then, oh wait, full face forward. I don't like when moves are used like as a transitional move when it's like that's a finisher, especially if there is someone, especially in recent history, that uses that as a finisher. I feel it buries that person, and it also makes it's not, moves aren't finishers anymore if everyone can kick out of them. So that again, that's not just AEW, but AEW is the most guilty of doing Canadian Destroyers every episode. So, but overall, I enjoyed the match. The right person won, but there was too much stuff where I was like,
Yeah.
this doesn't.
Although barring that, I would say though I was quite surprised how well they worked together in the ring. Like their ring chemistry was really good, and I think it cemented even more the fact that MJF, he's amazing on the mic, but he can, his ring ability matches up to what he can talk on the mic as well. And Jungle Boy as well looked really strong. So overall, I thought the match fit in well with the pay per view, and barring a no sell on the Canadian Destroyer, there were some really cool spots in there, and like I said, the end result was a good choice.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you think?
I liked it overall. Like there was like some spots, like you said, like when like things just are no sold, and it's just really like those tiny things. But other than that, it was like a pretty good overall match, and having MJF win really fit with everything, because I think once he finally loses, it's gonna be a big deal, type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Any final thoughts on this match? Yeah, exactly.
No, he's going to beat Cody for the TNT Championship and just keep rubbing the salt in the wound just to be a dick. That is literally what it'll be.
Yeah.
I will say, going off of what Ryan said, I do very much agree with what he said about both guys looked strong, especially because Jungle Boy, when he's like working with Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt, does a lot of like the high flying stuff and a lot more of the spectacle stuff. And MJF has obviously been Wardlow, so more power stuff. So seeing both of them do like a bit more technical stuff and a bit more storytelling, like the fact the match ended with a roll up, I really enjoyed, because it showed that both guys were actually ring savvy, which I think a lot of, especially older fans, think the younger guys just want to do flips and shit. So
yeah, definitely. And for me, I, especially having seen MJF like rise from All In, it's cool to see him really not just being a like threat on the microphone, but he actually can bust out some wrestling moves. And it's good that he's not just used as the goofy guy who's an asshole.
I hope we see more of that, to be fair. Like, we do see a lot with like the promo stuff with MJF, and obviously he's famed for his ability on the mic, but I do think his ring ability is something that needs to be, shown off a bit more if he's going to progress further.
And next is the match that I think definitely, I know it pissed Sarah off and it pissed me off with the result, which was Cody with Arn Anderson defeating Lance Archer with Jake the Snake Roberts for the TNT championship in 22 minutes. First of all, I understand they didn't finish the title, but I think it's really funny that they didn't finish the title.
Yeah. I just want to immediately say, firstly, I don't like red straps in wrestling. I like white, I like black, and that's it.
Gold?
Like I said, like, if it's navy blue, then sure, because that's close to black. But like, as I said in my interview, I love New Japan, so obviously their belts are all like black and white strap belts, pretty much, barring the US title, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, U.S. titles don't need to show the American flag all the time. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's weird because the WWE UK title has got like our coat of arms on it, like not a flag, which I appreciate. But I do find it very. I really enjoyed this match until Mike Tyson got involved. That's when the match felt like it was going downhill. Like the fact that it started immediately with Lance Archer hitting the blackout, and then Cody in the match having to hit every Rhodes family finisher and it not working. I was like, this makes Archer look like a monster heel who is a threat to not just the TNT championship, but every championship if he really wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah, going on the title, I'm definitely glad to hear that it's not finished piece, because to be honest, when it's a championship, basically cementing that the network is proud to have AEW, I was hoping for a bit more of a prestigious look. Obviously it's got some updates coming, thankfully, but in terms of the match as well, I'm a bit mixed on who should have won, because I think obviously Lance Archer's been built to be like this big monster heel, but at the same time I feel like it seems to be a common thing with Cody's stories at the minute, where it builds up to this big story where he must finally win it, and he always seems to lose out on the big one. So in a way, with him not being able to compete for the world title, I can see why they want to build this new mid-card title on him. And like I said to you guys during the pay-per-view, I'm hoping it's going to be a scenario where it's going to be something he defends, and it gets gives him the chance, to showcase some of the talent that, a lot of audiences are still getting used to. So people like Darby Allin, people like that, really. So I'm hoping that's the direction they go in. But obviously, with the way the match finished, I can definitely see that there's probably a rematch on the cards. But yeah, overall, that I agree with Rip, where the use of the finishes and stuff was a bit debatable, and Mike Tyson's involvement was a bit more than originally thought. I was quite happy with his first initial reaction to Lance Archer choke slamming that random crew member. That was quite cool. But
though it did get a little old with them like cutting to him like every 30 seconds, like right up to him, like where he's like, "Yeah, go team, yeah, wrestling, woohoo!" It just got old really fast.
Paid for every second on screen. Every second he was just going 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, just count it up in his head.
Yeah. But I'm sure it got them a decent amount of like mainstream exposure, because Mike Tyson is big deal.
Yeah. I will say, just as a little side thing, I kind of like with what Ryan said about Cody never getting the big one. I think this story would have worked better if Lance had retired Dustin, because then there's more emotional investment, which I thought was what they were going to do when Lance was on one side, Cody's on the other, and Dustin was in the same bracket as Lance. I thought that's the story they're going to tell. Lance just destroys everyone and retires Dustin. It without a crowd, like doesn't give Dustin the satisfaction of a crowd reaction. Mm-hmm. But clearly I overthought it.
I do like that idea. It definitely gives it some more depth.
I did not like who won. I didn't necessarily want either of them, really, because I thought Lance is kind of too big of this monster for this like supposedly mid-card-ish title, and I thought it should have been some of like their like not really used talent like Darby Allin, or like have like their lower card people in the bracket. But when I saw both of Cody and Lance on it, I was like, oh, it's gonna come down to them. Nothing else matters. But like having it come down to this, and then having Cody win because he needs the win and he needs this title, and I was like, no, you don't. But hopefully he does what Ryan said, like has other people face him every week. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
it'd be like really interesting to build other people up.
Open challenges work really well.
And they haven't done that yet. AEW hasn't done like an open challenge on Dynamite yet.
I wanted them to do a Hangman Page open challenge, but not wrestling, like a drinking challenge. Like every week, it's like, here's beer pong, here's shot roulette, here's who can down the most pints before they black out. Here's, just like fun little backstage skits.
That'd been great.
That'd be fantastic.
Although based on that point now, I'm starting to think maybe the match really didn't need the championship at all. But then I can see at the same time why they kind of want a big rivalry to, cement the first title match. But yeah, I am hoping that they kind of start building it on some of the talent that, a lot of people are still getting used to. And hopefully it becomes like obviously it might become, well, it most likely will become a regular feature on Dynamite, being the TNT title and everything. So,
something I think we can all agree on, because I brought it up, JR saying about Brandy Rhodes being attacked by Jake Roberts' snake is the worst wording JR has ever said.
And I know he did it on purpose. He 100% did it on purpose.
I literally sat in my chair and I was like this. No.
JR said a lot of questionable things.
Yeah, but that was always Jerry Lawler's thing, saying questionable things.
Yeah,
now JR's doing it.
And Sarah, I know how much you love Jerry the King Lawler.
That reaction.
No.
Awesome. Well, for me, like again, I didn't think this. I felt like this was a great feud to have, but I really didn't think it needed the title, and kind of wished it didn't have it. But I do. In my opinion, I feel like Darby Allin's going to be the one that eventually takes it off him. I could easily see Darby Allin winning the Battle Royal on Wednesday to be the first person to challenge him, and maybe they start a feud or something. But
him and Cody have had some really good matches in AEW so far, and I think
there's been a nice natural feud building between them all the way back to last summer.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with that last match they had as well, where Cody only just managed to get the roll up after the coffin drop. Like it's definitely they've left breadcrumbs there for a possibility of a potential feud. So I'm hoping they would do something with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cody obviously made Darby Allin with that Fyter Fest match where he didn't take it as seriously as he should, and it was the first time limit draw. That first he established time limits are a legit thing, and Darby Allin is not, just because he's got a smaller stature, he is not to be messed with, even compared to a veteran like Cody. So them two, just give him a 30-minute Iron Man match for the TNT title, and I'll be happy.
That would be awesome.
That'd be great.
Awesome. So next up we had the match that was originally supposed to be Chris Statlander and Britt Baker, which then became Chris Statlander and Penelope Ford with Kip Sabian in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I did not realize this match was that short.
No.
For me, this just felt like a match from Dynamite. Like I didn't really feel like it fit into the pay-per-view at all. Like it wasn't a bad match necessarily, but it just didn't seem necessary to be on the card.
When Chris Statlander won, because initially before going into this, I was convinced that the two people they were going to have beat Nyla Rose, it was either going to be Britt Baker as like make her the biggest heel in the company, or it would be Chris Statlander because of how over she is as a character and stuff. Obviously, we'll find out I was wrong, but so I thought giving her this win was meant to build her up, like kind of like how they did with Shida, where it was a progression of her winning matches. I loved Kip in the match. Just the little things he was saying on the side did make me chuckle. But I feel like I kind of feel bad for Penelope because I like the idea of Penelope Ford, Jimmy Havoc, and Kip Sabian just being a bunch of bumholes and going around being like high school jerks to people. I like that image in my head. Like the emo kid, the athletic kid, and the popular girl just being like a Mean Girls ripoff sort of thing.
Yeah. Ryan, what did you think of this match overall?
Well, you could definitely tell, obviously, that Britt Baker had a big part to play in it, and they kind of had to think on their feet to replace her. It was a good performance from Penelope Ford. I always get a tongue twister on that. And Chris Statlander as well. Like obviously, with her match at Revolution, this was kind of a way to bit of redemption for her as well. Overall, the match was like there was nothing really wrong with the match, but at the same time, I still don't think it was really necessary for a pay-per-view. Yeah. But I think that's, like I said, just because Britt Baker obviously got injured last minute and they had to fill it in. So, yes, Rip.
Sir, I was just wondering, just wanted to get a general consensus. If instead of Penelope Ford, if they were able to get Rio and they were given more time, do you think this would have been a better match? Because obviously Rio's got more experience, and I believe Rio has worked with Chris Statlander a fair bit on the independent scene when she has come over before. So I might be wrong on that, but I feel like because Rio's got more established history compared to Penelope Ford, would it have been a better match in terms of like story because we were more invested in characters then?
If they were given more time, I think so. Like if it was 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes, I definitely think so.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like just giving them more time and like actually being able to tell the story with like two people who like know each other and the characters like that, it would have been like
especially with Riho being as over as she is.
We sound like we're talking about a Divas match from the like mid 2000s. Like give the women more time. Like that kind of is how it is. Like you got talented women, but you're not giving them the time to shine.
But I definitely can't complain with the fact that, Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose, who I would, in my opinion, would say was the second best match of the night, that they got a really good chunk of time. So the fact that there were 2 women's matches on the card is
Yeah, that match
definitely isn't like
surprised me.
yeah.
I wasn't expecting to be as entertained by that match as I was. And who went over as well, that shocked me as well. Because obviously Nyla Rose is still, I'd say, still kind of building up her reign as champion, but obviously that's been cut short a bit. But at the same time, it was quite a nice moment to see. I've already forgotten her name, but
Hikaru Shida.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it was a cool shock factor as well to have her win it, and the back and forth.
Well,
yeah, I really enjoyed that match.
Next, we'll talk about the Dustin Rhodes with Brandy Rhodes defeating Sean Spears in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I can't actually give you my thoughts on this because, unfortunately, I had to go deal with a family issue. Literally in this time span, by the time, the last match I saw was Penelope Ford versus Chris Statlander, and I came back and Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose's video package was playing. But right near the end, so I was like, oh, I haven't missed anything. Then I saw the highlight reel at the end of the show, and I was like, oh, so that did happen. Right.
Well, I think they did quite well, obviously, because this was a very last-minute match, and I really enjoyed the promo from this week's Dynamite with Sean Spears doing, obviously, the news gimmick. That was quite clever, and how he obviously called him out and everything. And how it went down, I was quite surprised because obviously everyone was thinking that Dustin Rhodes wasn't going to appear. So yeah, that was quite a cool moment. Obviously, it did make a bit of a mock of Sean Spears, but at the same time, it was. Yeah, I think it did the job, and it was quite entertaining. So,
I saw a tweet that was like, "Oh, nice to have a men's match, a popcorn break in between the 2 women's matches."
That's great.
I'm like, that describes it perfectly.
I didn't think about that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Accuracy 100. Just from the highlight reel I saw, I do agree somewhat with Ryan. But I think the thing is that, especially hearing Sean Spears talk in interviews about leaving WWE and stuff as Ty Dillinger coming onto the independent scenes, and then AEW as Sean Spears, it sounds like he's got a different mindset compared to what we'd probably assume someone of his talent and skills would have. Considering he had a more, I'd say, high octane style, especially in NXT. But then he came onto AEW and he's working more of a methodical heel style, especially with Tully being his manager. So I feel that kind of doesn't ruin him per se, but I feel like it will play into something that further down the line with him and Dustin. And hopefully him retiring Dustin, because the guy deserves a rest.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, he does.
Next match that we had was for the AEW Women's World Championship, which was a no disqualification and no countout match where Hikaru Shida defeated Nyla Rose in 16 minutes and 40 seconds. Personally, I thought this match was awesome.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Really, both of them came across really strong. I was definitely shocked by the winner, which was great. And she did it in really convincing fashion as well. Didn't make Nyla look too weak.
I personally think that Nyla has, in the year that AEW's had, Nyla has very much come into her own, especially considering very early on when the women's division started. It was very clear they wanted to push her, but the fans, we were like, she isn't ready for that position yet. I feel like she's more than established. She is a force to be reckoned with in the women's division. Hikaru Shida is just fantastic. If it weren't for the final match, I would say this was my favorite match on the card in terms of storytelling and in terms of what the match offered. And because Hikaru Shida cosplayed, and if any rest of the cosplays, it immediately gets a 4-star rating at the very least for me. But this match actually did do something I didn't like, which was, again, what I mentioned with the Canadian Destroyer in the MJF match. Obviously, Hikaru Shida hit her finisher a lot of times, and I get the idea that, if you hit your finisher a lot of times, it makes the other person look stronger, but then it's not a finisher at that point. And ironically enough, Hikaru Shida called that running knee she does the free count. She literally called it the free count on the independent scenes, yet it barely got the 2 count for most of the time she used it, barring the one time to finish it.
That's interesting. I was not aware about that fact.
I enjoyed the match. It was good. I will agree, like, Nyla has been, like, really, really great lately, and I'm a little biased. I got to see her live, so that was fun. And, like, getting to see her live, you see how, like, much of a beast
But also
she
for
is.
us, when we were there, people were shouting some nasty crap at her. I'm sure you can imagine, like, the type of thing. So, like, at that point, we were like, okay, we want this person to really succeed. And then after listening to her on the Jericho podcast, again, but it's really been nice to see her. I was worried she was just going to become AEW's Nia Jax, and I feel like she's surpassed Nia Jax in a way. I'm not scared that she's going to injure someone every time I watch her wrestle.
Yeah, she is a safe worker, so she's automatically.
She automatically is better, at least, than Nia Jax. But funny enough, I was worried she was going to become. So there's this thing in cinema where if you address the fact you have a character that represents a underrepresented group, you're telling the audience there's an underrepresented group.
Yeah.
So I was very worried that that Nyla Rose would just become the face of we're a progressive company. Look, and I thought that would be a big part of her character, especially if she turned face. But I've enjoyed the fact that it's been no, she's just a badass woman who is going to take no crap off of nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact she is not this social justice warrior icon. She is just this beast that wants to eat every woman she sees.
And the fact that AEW didn't, when they first signed her, when we first watched the press conference with her signing, I just thought it was a big woman who was signed. I had no idea. And so when I think I read an article in Forbes that said that, I was like, oh, that's cool. But I really appreciated that it was an AEW boasting that, which is no offense to, WWE, they're not shy at saying, oh, we signed the first gay wrestler or something like that.
In all fairness, they were very. They have not mentioned Jake Atlas's.
No, they have not. They have not.
I very much appreciated, especially considering his finisher is called the LGBDDT, which is the most complicated name ever.
That's great. But overall, I thought this match was a whole lot better than I expected. I was shocked by the win from Shida. I was happy because Hikaru Shida is my favorite wrestler in the division. But I genuinely enjoyed it, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Nyla Rose next.
My biggest worry as well before the match, because obviously the week before in Dynamite, you had Nyla Rose actually beat her as well. So I was kind of worried as well. Hang on, is she going to beat her again and just completely ruin all her momentum? But I think that kind of added to the story a bit as well, because obviously you were kind of expecting, Nyla Rose has beaten her before, so really worked well.
Going off of the story thing, another story thing, barring the obviously Nyla Rose having the kendo stick and stuff at the beginning of the match, which is obviously a big part of the story. The fact that the announcer statement addressed the fact that Hikaru Shida wasn't smiling until she won the match. The entire time she was game face, I'm here to beat the ever living hell out of this person, which is obviously a far cry from the smiley sort of entrance we normally get from her. And I thought that was such a nice little detail to her character work of she can just be a complete serious essentially an assassin at this point. The amount of times she tried decapitating Nyla was actually A, terrifying, B, beautiful, C, beautiful. But I did like the fact that I felt like this match over pretty much all the other matches, barring the main event and the co-main event, had the most like little details of its storytelling and little things that made it feel a lot more well told.
Mm-hmm.
There was one moment in the match. Nyla was over the barricading. Sheeta had the kendo stick, and I swear she was gonna hit Nyla straight in the face with the kendo stick. I was like, oh no, she's just gonna like bitch slap her with the kendo stick. But like the action in the match was like really well done, and how they used the area and not just like stayed in the ring or like just outside it like WWE tends to do sometimes with their no DQ matches. They actually like went out to where the crowd was.
It seemed like it had a purpose for actually having a gimmick to it and not just to bolster the card.
Yeah.
I
It
will
also
point out,
allowed Nyla to stay strong-ish.
Ryan, write down bitch slap with a kendo stick because we need to use that as a spot. Because that's the most beautiful words I think I have ever heard. I don't want to get a golf cart. Yeah, but I want it on a golf cart. I want to be driving a golf cart and just be like, bang, got him.
I think that was something as well that a lot of the matches did as well. They actually incorporated the arena a lot. Like I'd love to see it before and after because the amount of like the barricades, fucking props as well, was just everything was chucked into certain matches, and like I don't think there's a table left in the arena that hasn't been had someone put through as well. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy how like every match seems to incorporate the actual arena as well, even though there wasn't a crowd there.
Speaking of stuff breaking, something that I found that I personally really loved was none of the ladders breaking. Going back to that opening match, I found that to be like a really big part of the story where none of these ladders are breaking, and it made it look more impactful. Like there was no give to it; you're just bouncing off a solid steel. So I thought, like again, like little things where it's like this looks 5 times worse than any ladder spot we've seen in the Money in the Bank match in recent years, barring the sunset flip powerbomb with Finn Balor and Andrade Almas.
Oh god, that moment.
But the one thing I will still say is that women's belt is way too tiny. The fact that their secondary belt is bigger than that, still, it's hard.
And I kind of see the traditional look they're trying to go for with like the smaller plates and everything, but like even just seeing Nyla Rose hold it, it just literally looked like it could fit in the palm of her hand. It was ridiculous how small it is.
It looked to me, firstly, I kind of like the design, but every time I look at it, especially the silver and like the hints of pink, I'm like, this looks like a Barbie doll accessory. And then the size of it just reminds you of like the kids deluxe belts you can get, like the smaller ones for children off the WWE shop. It doesn't, and especially the fact when Rio held it, you couldn't tell how small it was because obviously Rio's a pretty slender woman. Then Nyla, who's a larger woman, to be correct about it, it just looked like a toy, that like a cardboard belt that they'd made. Like
well, the fact she could like walk around just wearing it as a necklace said enough, really. Like she didn't block her face or anything. She just walked around with it around her neck.
It actually reminds me, Ryan, you probably will know this promotion, WCPW.
Yes.
When they first started.
That's what I was thinking of. Their belt was too small.
It was a toy belt, not an actual belt.
And they gave it to Killian Dane first, right?
Yeah, the biggest guy they ever had, barring Keith Lee.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching the documentary about that and them just talking about just how small. Oh, that promotion was great. But that belt was that's literally what I felt, and I was like, did they accidentally order a toy one?
I have a toy one, and I keep looking at it. I'm like, looks, at least unless it's like bigger in person, but on TV it looks so small, and I'm just like, look at it, it's the necklace.
It literally looks like it was made for Riho, and they just forgot to like make it bigger after she'd lost it. Like someone just needs to put it in Photoshop and just do that, and then it'd be fixed.
They went, Rio's our first champion. Let's make the belt very Rio. And then they turned around and looked at all the other women they had that were like bigger built, and like, bloody hell, they have a woman called Big Swole, for God's sake. Like, I love Big Swole. She's one of my favorite wrestlers. But like, I can't imagine her holding that belt. Yeah. It just doesn't.
They also couldn't have chosen a worse second champion in terms of what the belt would look like. Like, anyone else, it wouldn't have looked half as bad as it looks when Nyla had it.
Yeah. Poor Nyla.
Well, Awesome. So the next match was Jon Moxley defeating Brody Lee by submission for the AEW World Championship in 15 minutes and 30 seconds.
See, I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely loved the finish. Like, I think it was perfect
it was
for what
great.
they needed to do, especially like with the spot with the ramp as well. I was thinking, right, they've definitely like sold it that both these guys are beating the living crap out of each other, and the fact that Moxley had to hit him with like 2 paradigm shifts and it still just wasn't enough. So the fact he had to use a chokehold made it look like, hang on, this is like a last resort. I need to keep this guy down. And like it made Brody Lee as well just look like an absolute monster. The fact that Jon Moxley had to literally choke the life out of him for him to win the title or keep the title, I mean. So, yeah, I was really pleased with that.
I really loved the match, but the thing you liked about the finish is the thing that I obviously didn't like. But the way I kind of would have played it out in my head if I was to like book it differently would be keep the ramp spot because that was a great spot. And when they went for the second paradigm shift in the ring, have Brody counter it and then have John counter it straight into the sleepers. Like this is like a last ditch. Like if he's going to be able to counter the paradigm shift, I've got to try and keep him asleep essentially. But I like the fact again, like little storytelling stuff. The fact they were out of the ring so much, even though there was a time limit and there was ring outs. The fact that they kept breaking the time so they can get back outside and beat the ever-living hell out of each other. Like, I really enjoyed, like, because it felt like these two hate each other. They've got security guards making sure they don't run at each other before the bell goes.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, how they were going to deal with Brody Lee because I was like, oh, my gosh, they can't have Moxley lose right now. But it's also like, oh, my gosh, they can't have Brody Lee lose right now. And I was like, but I think they handled it pretty well.
The famous NXT problem.
Yes. Sarah, what did you think?
Oh, I enjoyed the match. You saw my reaction for most of it. I was very happy with the outcome. Yes. I really wanted Moxley to win. And I think how they did it with him, like as the last ditch effort, like choking the life out of him, like you said. But I liked how it came after his head went through the ramp and then onto the ring twice. Like, it's like he was basically like dazed, bleeding, and like, oh, I'm gonna die now.
Yeah.
I have a question. Does anyone else think that was a blade job? Like that?
I literally asked Sarah, was that a blade job? I asked her as soon as it happened.
Because like when I was watching the replays, I was trying to like look at like see where like he would have made contact, unless it was like underneath the ring he accidentally hit. But like the blood didn't look like in the right place.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, it looks cool, but why does it seem off?
Yeah.
It seems like
no, it was 100% a blade job.
Yeah, I asked that as soon as it happened.
Yeah.
But it worked, so.
Yeah. It did.
I mean, bold move considering they had that big scandal where they were meant to be sued for like loads of money by I can't remember what sports commission it was
in Baltimore.
Because of the lights out match.
Full Gear.
Yeah, so kind of felt like a up yours Baltimore if it was a blade job. Like we could do it here in Jacksonville. They're cool about this stuff.
Yeah, we also know they're never going back to Baltimore again, which is unfortunate because Baltimore like never gets pay-per-views, and now they're never gonna get one again.
They might one day.
Well, Baltimore is so close to Washington D.C., where like if you want those areas fans, you can just go to Washington D.C. So it really doesn't matter.
I mean,
it's really easy.
But look at all the WrestleManias that are built from New York, and they're actually in like outside of New York, but they're still built in New York City.
To be fair, there is no stadium big enough in New York City to hold a WrestleMania.
The same with WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, Texas. It actually isn't in Dallas, if I remember. It's somewhere else, like outside of Dallas.
It's where the Cowboys is. I'm a little less like mad about those because they're doing it where their giant stadium is. Like, the airport in where I live is in a different state just because that's just where it happens to be in. So stuff like that, I'm a little more lenient to. But also here in the States, things are so bordered up, it doesn't make sense in the first place.
We don't have that problem in England. The country's too small. You can't even get a flight.
Well, finally, the match that I thought was just fantastic was the Stadium Stampede match between Matt Hardy and the Elite versus the Inner Circle in 34 minutes. And this match was loads of fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
I remember messaging you guys as soon as they started doing the entrances. I was like, this is going to be brilliant. Just how they incorporated, obviously, the football arena and the team jerseys. I was sold straight away.
Now, my biggest first question was it taped?
Oh,
Some
yeah,
of
yeah.
it-
I think it was
Oh,
taped. Didn't it?
absolutely.
Okay. That's what I was thinking, especially with Matt Hardy, pool stuff. And I was like, that has to be taped.
Well,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere it was taped.
I mean, as well, I imagine a lot of the bigger spots as well, like the final big spot, the One Winged Angel. I'm assuming they had to that wasn't just like in the moment. They had to plan it out for like a very long time and like get stuff sorted so they can make it that Sammy wasn't gonna die because Sammy and Hangman Page were the MVPs of this match, and I'll hear no arguments otherwise. They were the two best people in. Like everyone was fantastic. I loved the humor, but I love the fact that storylines were still continuing and the action was fun. But just Hangman being an alcoholic is a storyline that I adore because it's the whole reason the Elite have the problems because none of them are willing, barring Kenny, to try and get him to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
Like, Matt just wants to have a go at him. Nick just wants to ignore him. And Kenny's like, please, can you just go and get help?
The milk spot was great.
My beer. Yeah,
I think that's the first time as well where I've seen commentators suddenly get into a side conversation about how lovely a horse is.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the match, they're just like, that is a lovely horse. Oh, well.
I hope to God Hangman Page never changes from Hangman Page. Like, that's always his gimmick.
Yeah.
Just so big events, he has a horse. That's all I need.
I mean, this match felt like a WrestleMania ending match, all the way up from just being in a stadium to the big fireworks at the end. I mean, the fact that they have this stadium at their full use that they can use whenever they want is just incredible. The fact that they got to have just a match at a stadium, they got to use the Jacksonville Jaguars cheerleaders.
I love that, by the way. Not as a sexist thing. I just love that touch. The fact that they were clearly mostly cheering for the Inner Circle. Especially when Jericho's like, cheers, Sammy. Sammy.
Yeah.
It's as if Chris Jericho was like, boys, I've got an idea. I'm hiring the cheerleaders as well as these outfits because we're going to look the best.
This is
definitely well done as well, how they incorporated all the parts of the arena as well and how everyone seemed to split off and then come back together towards the end. So that was really well done, I thought.
Sarah, I know you were laughing just the entire time.
Favorite spot. I called that someone had to go into the Jaguar head. I'm like, someone's going to go into that Jaguar head. I don't know if it's going to be Jericho or Nick, but someone's going to go into it. And then when Hangman came out with the line sprayer and just sprayed right over Jericho, I was dying. Because if you look in the background, Matt and Nick, I think we're trying to Matt was still trying to be the serious, I don't really not really happy with Hangman thing, but his smile is so large and he's laughing. And Nick's dazed, what's happening? What is this?
That must have been so fun to film.
Oh, it must have been. You mentioned Jericho. My favorite Jericho moment from this whole thing is him arguing with the ref and then going into the tent to see the replay. That was probably if Hangman weren't there and Sammy weren't there thinking he won the match, I would say that's the best thing in the entire match. Just Chris Jericho saying, "I want a replay. Show me the replay."
Aubrey and Chris Jericho's feud is one of the most underrated parts. I just love what they do with the referees, that they make them people.
Yeah, the referees at this point seem to have gimmicks of their own now where whatever match they're part of, they're there, and they always seem to have put their own sort of bits of their character into it. It's especially with how Chris Jericho and Aubrey Edwards seem to work together. It's just it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me of, I think Ryan will agree with me, the promotion we work for, WAW, the referees are given a lot more personality and stuff to do in matches, especially compared to modern day WWE. and it reminds me a lot of old school Attitude Era WWE and like new generation WWE in terms of like I always say to people, imagine the Montreal Screwjob if we didn't know who the ref was. Like we wouldn't understand like the significance of like that, of like him just getting the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
But we knew who he was, like little stuff like that. Like Little Nate. Like, can you imagine a world without Little Nate? I can't, and I don't ever want to imagine a world without Little Nate.
or you know, the only reason that we know who referee John Cone is because his son was a former tag team champion with Braun Strowman, and whenever we see him, we're like, oh look, it's Nicholas's dad. But like other than that, like we would have no idea, and it's fun like knowing the personalities of the referees.
Definitely, it was. Yeah, I especially loved the Matt, like you mentioned, the Matt Hardy.
Oh, it's so brilliant.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he obviously thought, hang on, I'm going to include as many gimmicks as I can.
Yeah, WWE just I don't understand how they botched the Woken stuff so hard.
I can answer that for you because Vince McMahon didn't make it.
True.
Vince McMahon doesn't like using other things because that's successful. It's why EC3 didn't work, why WCW didn't work, and why Woken Matt Hardy didn't work, because he wanted it to be WWE.
And that's why the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega wouldn't have worked.
Oh God, no.
So that's also a reason why Bully Ray was never used in WWE as well, apart from obviously using the word bully. But
yeah,
he was like, yeah, I know who Bully Ray is, but no.
Could you imagine if, like, just like a what if the Elite had signed WWE contracts? Adam Page would be top guy in NXT apparently. Kenny, Cody, and the Young Bucks would have been on main roster, and BTE would have been a WWE Network exclusive show. Like that was, but the thing
I
is,
just see Mojo Rawley on it, and that gives me nightmares.
Yeah, I've heard and we've talked about money wise, which I don't like to talk about, but they were apparently rumored to pretty much all be on the same level as AJ Styles, who at the time was WWE champion of the company, which is mental to think that that Vince McMahon was so scared of these guys going anywhere else, like staying in New Japan, staying in Ring of Honor, or worse yet, opening a new promotion, that they were willing to be like, we will pay you more than we've been paying Mojo Rawley for the past 10 years. Please, just don't start your own company.
And the fact that they turned down more money than I'm sure probably has ever been turned down by that company, with more things promised than anything. And they're like, because I think if they didn't know All Elite Wrestling was an option, they would have gone to WWE. Because I don't think they would have wanted to stay around Ring of Honor. I think they'd done all they could in New Japan. But when Tony Khan approached them as like, hey, you want to start their own company? Here's billions of dollars. I think they were like, yeah, let's just do it our own way. And it's worked out incredibly well.
An interesting thing I like to think about every now and then is if people that have recently signed to NXT, like Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, Damian Priest, if those guys hadn't signed when they did and All Elite had started, like, what would like the landscape of AEW NXT look like? Would we still like?
I think largely about the women's division, because the problem is they didn't have the because of the Mae Young Classic, everyone was signed. So they had to like make up their own women's talent, which I think they've finally started to do so. But like they could have
released.
Yeah. But I feel like they're finally starting to like they could have like, you know, brought in like a Chelsea Green who's been kind of flattering in NXT, which I know that's Sarah's favorite female wrestler. And she saw her All In and she wants like, you know, was hoping she would get released so she could go to AEW.
In all fairness, from what I hear, obviously being an absolute wrestling nerd, I read the dirt sheets all the goddamn time and try to keep up with all wrestling news. And apparently Triple H has got big plans for Chelsea Green in NXT and in Robert Stone as well. So I'm happy she's in NXT. I think it's a bit of a bitch move. They fired her fiance who was there for like 14 goddamn years. Not okay, considering like if you actually look at the money side, they had enough like out of every like big company like them in the world.
They didn't need to fire anybody.
Yeah, they were the only company that was predicted by actual analytics and like people that know what money is they were the only ones predicted to make a profit, and apparently it was around like $10 million dollars, which, especially considering the crisis and no live events, that's an absurd amount of money, and you still fired people and saved about 750 odd.
And
Like,
yes,
really.
I know a lot of people wanted to be released, and like I know people like Rusev wanted to be gone, and people like the Revival wanted to be gone, but like that message Drake Maverick put on when he was, that broke my fucking heart.
Yeah.
But
Well,
also
I'm
I think
starting to
it's
worry
helped
now
him
that
a
that's
little.
actually part of the story, because at this
Yeah,
rate he's going to be cruiserweight champion anyway. So
yeah, that's true. Which makes you wonder if he was released in the first place.
See, I don't think personally they are going to give him the cruiserweight title, because the thing is, from what has been like confirmed and stuff, he has been released and he is working these last dates. WWE have made him an offer to stay, but the reports are is that he's turned them down, which is why recently he had a new shirt released through EC3, and he's been referred to by like pretty much everyone as just Spud again, like on social media. Which I want him to go back to the independent scene, because I feel like Impact, if he went back there, AEW, Progress, if he wanted to come back to the UK, so many companies he could go to and really elevate them with like just his storytelling and knowledge of the business, especially from the perspective of someone who's been to the big leagues, realized they are not the be all and end all, and has now got the opportunity to like kind of foster like younger talents into thinking, I don't need to sign a contract with WWE right away. I can like make my own brand, and then when I'm ready and when I feel like the time is right, then I can go to WWE. When they need me, I don't need them.
Yeah. So last thing, we have about 9 minutes left. So final thoughts on the pay-per-view as a whole, and we'll go down the line. So we'll start. Rip, we'll start with you first.
They definitely have shown up WWE. They've shown you don't need to have a pay-per-view every single month. And if you structure it and tell the stories correctly on the weekly show, you can have fantastic pay-per-views and everyone's going to adore them.
Ryan?
Thoroughly entertained throughout, to be honest. The thing is with AEW pay-per-views, I don't think there's been many where I've ever really come away disappointed, which is testament to them, especially with obviously the situation as well. And like I said, the storytelling is, continues to show up WWE. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next, because it may not have been as good as last year's, but still a really good pay-per-view.
Yeah. Sarah?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was great. I will say, like, one thing as an American, please bring your price down for your pay-per-view. Please.
What? It's $20 for you guys?
£20. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 50 over here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
15, yeah. About 20, £15 for us.
Don't worry. Next year, the AEW network will be out. You'll be fine. We'll all pay £10 a month.
Yeah.
Other than that, I enjoyed it. It was great. I think they did well with what they had. And the fact that they use wrestlers as the crowd, it's the best thing ever.
It works so well.
It works so well. And WWE could do it, but they don't. And that's their loss.
And Rip, I know you wanted to end this on maybe a little more of a somber note, but a note that needs to be brought up.
Absolutely. So obviously, as we're all aware, and everyone watching this will probably be aware, this week has not been a kind week to the wrestling community. First, we lost Shad Gaspard, who was a big name during the Ruthless Aggression era, who essentially gave his life so his son could live due to a tragic accident. Again, proving that you don't need to, everyone can be a hero if they do the right thing. And yesterday, as of where we are now, Hana Kimura, a very talented, beautiful woman from Japan in Stardom, took her own life due to cyberbullying. And she was only 22 years old, a year older than me. So that hit me like a ton of bricks to see such a young, beautiful soul taken away from us because people don't know how to be nice to each other. So I kind of want to just say to people, do what's right, be decent to one another, and above all else, just be kind, because no one deserves to die because of faceless monsters.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge loss for the wrestling community. And I think now is just the time where, get together. I think tonight really helped bring some positivity, showed, wrestling is fun. But, if you ever have anything going on where you think you're not worth it, reach out to a friend. And if you are someone, especially during this awful time, reach out to loved ones. Even if, it's someone you might not talk to as much, just getting a, hey, how's it going text sometimes can go a very long way.
Like I said on most of my posts, words are very powerful. Use them wisely.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap things up. I'd like to thank my 3 special guests for joining me for our very first pay-per-view roundtable. I think it was a lot of fun. Overall, I think this pay-per-view was a lot of fun. Anything you guys want to shout out before we go? Anything you want to promote?
What do you reckon, Rick?
I would like to ask if you could leave some links to some suicide prevention helplines in the comments more than our social medias, because they could do more work than we can as
100%.
very young people.
100%. Oh, definitely we'll do that. I'll leave links for both the American suicide prevention hotlines as well as the ones in the United Kingdom, just so people can do that. Definitely do that if you can. I know there is a donation thing set up for Shad Gaspard's family that I think is doing very well. If you want to donate to, I'll also leave the link for that below. And I'm not sure if there's anything out for her family yet, but if there is, I'll put it below as well. Thank you so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this again for it. And all 3 of you, thank you so much.
No problem.
Nice one.